Joining me now is Rebecca Skelhorn, a producer with the Shinecast, a U of G podcast. Thanks so much for joining me, Rebecca. And maybe for people who don't know, what is the Shinecast?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Neil. So the Shinecast is a podcast that was started this year at the University of Guelph in our Wellness Education and Promotion Center. And it is a podcast that focuses on sharing the stories around mental health of those in our university community. So students, staff, and faculty, and anyone else who might come in contact with any of those folks. So it is very student-led. We have a variety of different guests that we've had on our episodes. And we're just hearing their stories and having them share about mental health to try to reduce stigma and educate some folks about some different diagnoses, disorders, etc.
Why was this something you wanted to undertake?
We thought, students, they're listening to podcasts anyways. If we can get that information to them in this way, that would be super duper cool. So let's try it out, see how it goes, see what our uptake is like, and go from there with it. So that's kind of how the idea started with this.
What was it like for everyone involved, digging into stories that can be so personal and things you don't normally talk about, especially not on a podcast?
Yeah, so our two hosts, their names are Jordy and Linnea, and they are two of our student peer helpers. And they have been really, really key in getting this out of the gate. They're really wonderful storytellers. We brought in somebody to do some training with us on storytelling and journalism and how to kind of do those things and ask the questions that are going to draw information out of folks. So they had a little bit of practice with that beforehand, but I think for them, they've really been flexing their muscles, their active listening skills, their journalistic instincts, those types of things. And it's been really great to see them grow in those skills and, ask the hard-hitting questions and things like that. But it's very conversational, so it's not super duper difficult. The folks who are coming to us are already very willing to share their stories. And from the guest side, I think all of them have said that the experience of being able to share their stories through this medium has been really, really eye-opening for them, very cathartic. They reflect on a lot of things that maybe they never thought of, even if they've been in therapy for years. Some of the questions that our host had, or some of the reflections after they answer those questions, I think was really eye-opening for them. So I think everybody has really benefited from those involved on the back end. And we've also had some really great feedback from our listeners who have really enjoyed hearing these different stories and getting familiar with some different maybe disorders that they've never heard of or just don't know very much about.
Why is it important to do something like this about mental health, do you think?
Everything that we do, everything that we can do around mental health, I think is important. It's one of my main focuses in the Wellness Center as part of my portfolio, and it's never something that you can talk about enough. So many of our students struggle with mental health concerns, issues, diagnoses, whatever it might be, and a lot of our staff and faculty, community members as well. So the more we can talk about it, the better. And if that means coming at it from all angles, in-person conversations, online conversations, social media posts, events that we run, workshops, podcasts, and, I think it's important to remind people that people care. There are resources available. You are not the only one that is experiencing something, though it really often can feel that way. And so I think it's just important to keep it at the forefront of people's minds that, folks struggle. Even if you're not struggling right now, someone right next to you can be, and you may not know their full story and how they got there and what they're dealing with. So I think it's important to just talk about it as much as possible so that people can get the support that they need.
And one of the nice things is that this isn't just available to U of G students or U of G faculty. Anyone can listen in. So how can people hear the podcast?
For sure. So we are on all of the major podcast platforms. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and then a bunch of other smaller ones. So whatever you have on your phone downloaded, probably we're on there. So just search up the Shinecast and you can catch all of our 6 episodes that we released throughout this semester. And then we are going to have new episodes that will be starting in September, a brand new batch that we're excited to share with our audience.
Well, great. We'll look forward to season 2. Thanks so much for joining me, Rebecca.
No problem. Thank you so much, Neil.